Welcome to the Church Explained podcast. We really appreciate you joining us. The Church Explained podcast is a conversation to develop your leadership and grow your church. Our goal in this podcast is to share inspirational insights and ideas to resource leaders, churches and teams through conversations with key team players at IKON Church and other invited guests. In this episode, we're going to talk about generosity. Does it really matter? Hi, I'm Dave Mckeown.
And I'm Nathan Benger.
And we're the hosts of the Church Explained podcast. Today we're joined with Paul Benger, the lead pastor of IKON Church, and we're going to talk about generosity. Does it really matter? So we want to chat, Paul, and just find out a little bit about you. It says on your Twitter handle, which I really like actually, it says that you are pastor, leader, author, that you're creative, fun, that you're a Jesus follower, and also a curator of ideas. That's the bit I really like, the curator of ideas. The Jesus follower is good as well, I have to say that, as it is a church podcast. But hey, it's great to have you here. We just want to find out a little bit about you as we're going to chat today in this podcast.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, it's great to be here, and we know each other well. I'm excited, obviously, to get involved in the Church Explained podcast and for that. I'm the lead pastor of IKON Church. We planted the church 33 years ago, and we're a multi-campus church, we call it now, and we've got 6 campuses, which also includes our online campuses, and I'm really thrilled about that. I'm married to Jeannie, been married for a long time, I think 37 years, and she'd be able to tell you more accurately than me. We've got 3 children and 3 grandchildren, and we really love life, and like it said, we try to make life fun. You mentioned a curator of ideas. It was interesting that somebody read my Twitter handle and said, I've never seen that before, a curator of ideas. What kind of ideas do you curate? Yeah. And I said, good ones. I actually curate some of yours, because this person who was writing to me was a very famous author. So a lot of people find that intriguing.
Yeah. Brilliant. So you've been leading the church for 33 years, did you say?
34 years.
Multi-site church. And we're going to pick that up another episode, aren't we? We're going to talk about multi-site church. But for this one, as I've said, we want to talk about generosity. Does it matter? And one of the reasons we want to talk about this is because we're about to launch something brand new in IKON Church called
IKON Open.
IKON Open.
I nearly forgot that in my head. I don't know why.
Don't lose it. We need to keep that in there. IKON Open.
Yeah, we're very excited about it.
So, Paul, tell us a little bit about what's the purpose of IKON Open? Why are we launching it, and why are we excited about it?
Yeah, and also I guess why it links with the theme of generosity. And for us, IKON Open, well, for us as a church, IKON Church, we have always wanted to be generous. Not just to our communities, not to the people who call IKON Church their church family, but to the bigger church, the wider church, the universal church, around the world. So we've always said that we're passionate about the church, which means that other churches matter to us as much as our own. And so over the years, at IKON Church, it's developed, as it's grown, and our team has grown, and we've got some great people on our team. Now, many other churches have looked to us and asked us for resources, for help or ideas, and we've always said yes. We've always, wherever it's been possible, said yes, we'd love to share with you, and we've done that. So we started to dream about, well, could we have a place? Could we have a ministry, if you like, within our church, an arm of our church where we could point people and say, it's there, it's already prepared for you, we've been waiting for you, we've been expecting you coming, so that we've produced everything we've produced. We've not just done for our own church and for our own consumption, but we've created it with you in mind, so that you could, if it's useful for you, you can just take it. And so it's our attempt at being generous to the wider church and saying, whatever God's blessed us with, we want to be a blessing to whoever would find that helpful to them.
And I guess, like we said at the start, this podcast is a conversation to develop your leadership, grow your church. So what are some of those resources that are kind of going to be included. Obviously, you mentioned, we've got teams, those kind of things at IKON Church where we're being asked for stuff. So what kind of resources, can people grab a hold of on IKON Open?
Well, obviously, the resources around key ministry in church. So, messages, children's work, youth work, which, again, I think those are things that we've done really well. Sunday services, but also leadership. And we'll be putting things out around the way we train leaders, the way we develop leaders, maybe even our weekly staff meetings, some of those as well, but also some of the practical things, the how-tos of church. Sometimes churches come to us, in this season of lockdown, many churches have come to us and said, how have you done church online? Particularly at the beginning, they didn't know what to do, how to do church online. How do we do it simply? How do we do it cheaply? We've not got a budget. And so churches have come and we've helped them, and we've sent them resources and pointed them in the right direction. So practical things as well, things around governance, how do you set up, a board of trustees, and, some of the practical things, how do you manage finance in church? We'll get to some of that stuff as well, but we're hoping across the site, and of course as it develops, there'll be resources that will help people in any area of church life they need. And if they come looking for something and it's not there, and they get in touch with us, and we've got it, we'll put it there.
No.
I think that's the exciting thing, that we want to be generous with other churches. We want to help resource the people and help them develop in their leadership. And we will have quite a number of elements on the site, so if someone's looking for a message, they can grab maybe the message series, the message artwork, the transcript, all that stuff that they could take and actually just use in their setting. We know that many church leaders will go on and they'll say, well, that just sparks an idea for me. I'll take that, I'll use it in my setting. And really, that's what we're there for. How can we resource leaders? How can we help people? And as you've said, Paul, IKON Open is just a genius way to, I suppose, extend our hand, show generosity to others.
Absolutely. And, I love it when people say, we came, I just needed an idea. Sometimes pastors will contact me. I listened to your message. It sparked an idea. And then they go away and develop a message based on that. And that's what we kind of want to be, really. Use our creativity to spark the creativity elsewhere. Another area is in the area of worship and music. Our team have begun writing, and so we'll provide tracks. The ones that we've developed, all free of charge, that churches can actually just access that stuff to help them, develop their leadership and grow their church.
And like you said, it's not from a place of, like, look at us, we've got all the answers. It's actually come from a place of, we've had so many people have asked that actually let's create this resource base as well.
I mean, even this week, yesterday, I was on a call at large UK church. Had found out we're going to do baptisms in lockdown, and very few churches have done baptisms in lockdown. And it was just, how are you going to do baptisms in lockdown? We've been wrestling. And so I just spent half an hour saying, well, we've spent hours thinking about it and how we're going to do it. And they're just going to take our model, not that it's a fixed model, it's just a model for this moment. They're going to take that idea and they're going to use it in their church at Easter. So and
there are different seasons for churches. Like we know we're in lockdown at the moment, but I was just thinking at the start of lockdown, we had churches in Spain who we're working with access our services because they weren't able to do anything.
We helped them think about how they could go online, but I think it was for about 6 weeks before they felt confident and comfortable, they just joined our services. And some of them still do catch up with our services now because they enjoyed it so much.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we're offering there for people. And I think it's not just the resources on the site, but we want to say to people, listen, if you need help, they can contact us, can't they? That's the idea behind it as well. Develop some connections with people, some friendships, so that we're there to help them. Not just going to get resources. Of course they can do that. Go and get them, take them, go away. But if they want to develop more than that, they want to connect with us, maybe they need some help with some youth stuff or whatever it may be. Hey, we've got people skills there as well, not just physical resources. And I think that's the thing to point out to people as well.
Yeah. It's an extension of this heart that we've had for over 30 years, that if anyone's asked us for help, we've said yes, and if we can, we'll help. And so it's just an extension where we actually can put some resources towards it and say, this is part of who we are. We actually want to...
and we did an exercise as a church where we looked at our values, and one of our values that came out was generous.
Yeah.
And it's not just, and maybe we can talk about how you come up with those values and in future episodes. And
that would be a great episode.
How do you come up with the values, church? And we did a piece of work, and generous was one of those that came up. And this is like a moment where we're not just saying that on a piece of paper. Yeah. This is us doing that.
Yeah.
It's taking that extra step, isn't it, to think we're moving from just thinking about ourselves as IKON Church, but we're going to be thinking about, the global, the capital C Church, really. That, I think that's the amazing things that we can even think about. And just picking up what you said earlier, Paul, it's not about that we're better, but actually it's just the fact that God's blessed us. Not that we have piles and piles of stuff. Let's not give the wrong impression out there. But actually, we have created some great stuff, and our heart is to give that away. And one of the ideas we had been talking around was this idea of creation versus consumption.
Yeah.
Anyone want to just pop in and chat on that?
Well, I think another one of our values is to be creative.
Yeah.
And we call that to find a way. And there's some biblical precedent for that, obviously not just in generous, but God is always creating, and he's creating new. And so rather than just consuming things just on ourselves or for ourselves, this again, and even this podcast is an opportunity for us to create something that will be generous and add value to other people. So we very much want to be a creative people, and not just consumers, not just people who are just all the time thinking about themselves and just consuming for their own needs, but creating for others. I think that's a vision that we've got strongly in our culture.
Do you think that should be something that every church should do?
I think every church would aspire, I guess, to that. I know there's been seasons in our church where we wouldn't be able to create for others as much as just create for ourselves. And I think the creative idea is we all need to be creative in terms of, generating things that are life-giving and actually can reproduce. That's the pattern of creation, that things are actually full of life and can reproduce. And sometimes you have to focus on yourself. But then I think the heart of our churches needs to be, could this benefit others? And I always use the illustration. I know it's a simple illustration, but when you're learning to drive a car, maybe on that first lesson you put the key in the door, you open the door, you turn the ignition on. You
don't put keys indoors anymore.
No, you don't do that anymore. In my day, when you learnt to drive, and after your first lesson, you don't know much. But you know more than somebody else. You've gone a little bit further, and you could share that with somebody else. And so I don't think this is just some idea for churches with great resources or large churches. There are churches that have far more, I guess, than we have. But it's the heart of our church, and we believe that as we do this, the church, the universal church, will be blessed, and will be blessed as well.
And of course, it got me thinking, there is obviously other networks or resources out there that people can access besides what we're offering. But I suppose ours is a little bit specific in the sense of, because we're based in the UK, our content then lends itself to the UK market and across Europe. I mean, of course, it's usable in any part of the world. Yeah. But I know that we've found, and out of the resources that are out there, some of them coming from across the water, that sometimes they don't always fit in the UK setting. Would that be true to say? I mean, some of the resources out there are fantastic resources, but they don't always fit language-wise or culture-wise where we're at. So I think for us then to offer what we're offering, it's really specific to UK, Europe, and it'll help really resource churches in that setting. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an important point because I know I've found myself when you go searching for resources,
Yeah.
if something doesn't quite feel culturally, it doesn't quite feel, you tend not to pursue it.
Yeah.
And so, to take away a cultural barrier, and I think there is there's the UK, we do have this position where we're, geographically still part of Europe, although not politically, but we're still part of
Keep
Europe.
that down, keep that quiet.
Yeah, keep that quiet.
Yeah.
But then there are also other areas who perhaps would be more akin to us, where our style, our culture, our thinking, and the recent history, I guess, of the church in the UK might fit more for people. And we know that what we do isn't for everybody, but actually it may actually just provide a niche that people find helpful, and particularly, I guess, in those UK, European type cultures.
And again, it comes back to the heart of generosity again.
Yeah.
In terms of wanting to be generous with what we've been given, and open our hand to other people so they can access. And there are even some things that, in terms of, like you were saying, sometimes culturally it can be different, but also even style, it can be different as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's even just, like it nudges churches to think differently, which I think is an important thing, especially in today's culture where everything moves so fast-paced.
Yeah.
And
my hope would be that the stuff that we're creating, I think this would be true, is not too far away for people. I know sometimes I've been to conferences or I've been to, resources online, and you're so admire what they're doing, but it feels so far away, you don't know what your next step is.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping the things that we create will help churches of all sizes to think, well, that's the next step we could take, or here's some help towards the next step. This is how we could organize. This is how we could think about that. So that's my hope, that it gives churches hope.
Definitely.
For progress, for growth, moving forward. It helps them spark their vision and their own creativity for what God wants to do with them and in them and through them. And that it's not too far away, so that people are thinking, oh well, that's not relevant to us. We could never do that.
No, it's really good.
I guess the beauty, of IKON Church is because we pioneered the church. We started, we start with 3 people.
Yeah.
So we weren't always hundreds of people.
Yeah.
We actually start with 3 people. So we've been through that whole journey of different sizes of one, we call them campuses, but one campus, now 6. Well, it's not a backward step for us to think, how do we provide something that will help the much smaller, the pioneering, the embryonic, the one campus, one location church. That's all in us. So we're unlikely just to produce things for churches of a similar size or ilk.
I think it's a good thing to point out, in the sense that the content's not just for multi-site churches like us. It's for somebody who's a single church, or maybe somebody who's running a youth ministry, or somebody who wants small group resources. There's that content there. I was trying to think through then, just really wrapping up today with the sort of final question. What is the best ways for leaders in churches to be generous? Because let's say they're sitting, in their church, well, probably in their home at the present time, and they're thinking, well, we don't have 6 campuses, or we don't have resources, but they can do something, can't they? So come on, what can those individuals or those churches do?
Well, I think it starts with the heart. For generosity, it starts in the heart of considering, that sense that, we've always had that thought, if anybody asks, we'll help. I've sat on other church boards and worked with other churches, worked in other environments as well. So just I think when you've got that heart, doors will open to you, and to never think something, so a piece of work, a piece of help is small. it's always a seed of generosity. Generosity is all about sowing as well, isn't it? And just to sow whatever. And that if there is anything that you do, that you have, that can help other people to be open and to be, to offer it. I think there's a verse in Psalm 145, Dave, that you've kind of brought to us around this IKON Open things that talks about having an open hand.
Yeah.
And so I would just say, start with the heart. Just start with an open heart and a open desire, not just to see your church grow. Yes, you must have that. You've got to have that passion. Definitely. But also to see God bless the other churches in your town, in your city, in your region, and anything that you've got to say, we'll help if we can.
Really good. I think, we just wrote down here, even if you feel limited as a church, and we've put finance here, which can be one of the biggest areas, but I think even in resource, you can feel limited. There's a way to consider, can we be creative?
Yes.
Can we be generous with what we've created with, even with another church, another leader, but also even just coming back to that point where you were saying creative with our church and finding a way and just doing something to, either improve or, just to like solve a problem, I think is a great way to move from that scarcity mindset to that abundance mindset, that moving forward mindset, rather than that, we might call it maintenance mindset, to actually a movement forward.
Well, on our, one of our taglines for creativity is we always find a way. And I guess that's the tagline because we never feel like we've got the resources we need. If we decide, hey, we want to do this, it would be easy if then all the resources are already in place. Well, I have to say, in 34 years of leading IKON Church, that has never been the case. I do honestly envy those where they could say, let's start a new campus and we've got a whole batch of money that we can throw.
They've got lines around the corner and all of that.
We have never had that. We've been talking even today to our production team and saying we want to do this, but we've not got any resources, so how do we find a way? But every artist has the limitation of a canvas and the limitation of material. If you think of a painter, he's got a canvas. It's limited in its size and he's limited with the paints that he produces, but he still can create a masterpiece with the limitation. That's the abundance mindset. That's how you've got to view that what God has given to you. It can start as a frustration, but no, we have what we have. Let's create something great with what we've got.
And I think churches and church leaders really ought to take that to heart, really, because there's nothing worse if a church leader sits and thinks, actually, I've created this idea, I'm going to keep it in my church. Because if I share it to the church down the road, they'll steal my idea. Church leaders don't do that, do they, guys? You know what I mean? Not a chance. But you know what I mean? But if you have that mindset, I think it's a recipe for disaster, really. I think if you've got a great idea, go and tell the church down the road your idea, share it with them, because maybe they'll take it, develop it, maybe you can do something together. And I suppose that's our heart, isn't it, of being generous, IKON Open, even the Church Explained podcast. Let's get out what we have to be a blessing to others.
Well, that's a great point, because that can be a battle. Sorry.
No, it's all right. That's really good, and that's a great way to end this Church Explained podcast episode. It's been so good to share around like the IKON Open stuff and what we have to offer, and big thanks to you.
Thanks, Paul.
Paul, for being with us.
Great to be here.
Thanks for listening to the Church Explained podcast. It's been so great that we've been able to be together. And what we'd love you to do is to support by sharing, reviewing, wherever you're consuming this content. If you're on iTunes, leave us a review. Make sure you like and share this. If you're watching this on YouTube, wherever you consume this content, we'd love your support in doing this. And like we mentioned, in this podcast, we talked about IKON Open. We'd love you to head over to ikon.church/open, and there you'll find sample resources that you're able to access, and quickly and easily you can sign up to get exclusive access to all of our content on IKON Open. And so let me encourage you to do that. But that's all for now. Be sure to check out the show notes for this episode by going over to ikon.church/open. Click on the Church Explained podcast and you'll find the show notes there under this podcast episode. You'll find all the links and descriptions to all the resources we've talked about, and you can sign up to IKON Open there for exclusive access to all of the content. Well, make sure you subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, so you're notified when the next Church Explained podcast goes live, and we look forward to seeing you then.